Hedgehog Racing with some new coilovers. Ah, yes. So pretty.
Hey guys, Super Rust here from Hedgehog Racing. Today we're going to be sorting out coilovers. So we're going to be replacing these beautiful looking slightly old ones with these absolutely fantastic MeisterR coilovers. Now there's loads of other great videos out there about how to fit your coilovers. We're not going to try and do that today necessarily, but there's been a couple of little key learnings that we think might be useful if you're trying this job. The first is on removing your older coilover. We thought that we might need to have spring compressors in order to get these things out. We didn't, so you won't need to necessarily worry about that. The second tip is on fitting this lower coilover bolt on the rear wheels. It's meant to go straight through and into a captive nut. Unfortunately, in this car's life, our nuts seem to escape captivity at some point. So it can be a real pain to get this sorted, so we'll just take you through our process of how we managed to get that done. Okay, rear wheel coming up. So in order to get the old coilover out, we need to basically shove this whole unit down as far as we possibly can. And the first step of doing that is to disconnect this anti-roll bar linkage here. So this bolt unfortunately was an absolute pig, so we just moved up to this one in order to separate the anti-roll bar linkage. So we've got the top of the coilover accessed through the boot, and we're just taking the couple of 14mm bolts off to undo that.
Now, here's one of the problems we encountered. This is the lower bolt for the coilover on the rear. Getting onto this bolt is not too much of a problem. Should be a captive nut on the other side, but as you can see, hopefully, even though it's dark under here, the captive nut is no longer there, and the non-standard nut that someone's put on there is just spinning. So what we need to do is either of two things. What you can do is enlarge this hole so that you can get properly onto the nut by angle grinding away a little bit of this metal here, and this is the lower wishbone on the rear, so that you can get proper access. However, if you're lucky, you can get a spanner and just get it just at the right angle to get on that nut, and there is just room if you're lucky. View from directly underneath. So this is loosening. We've managed to get a spanner through that tiny little hole and just about got it onto the nut.
Oh, so with some significant persuasion, we've managed to get this bolt out. Putting some force down on here, we've been able to pull the suspension arm out from the top. And now we're going to try and pull it out from the bottom.
Beautiful.
We'll place this carefully over here. So here's the new shock, and we just have these little protective plastic gaskets that just fit on neatly like that, just stop it getting scratched up. Helpful to have a friend to just hold this in place from below, while you then put on the new little nuts. Okay, so we've jacked up this rear suspension now, just getting the bolt hole in line. We've got a little bit of play in the shock with not having done the bolts tightly at the top, so that'll be fine. So this is the one of the difficult parts, getting this through, as we said before, into the captive nut, which is no longer in the car, so pretty fiddly. And we're going to have to slot up a new nut into that hole underneath, hold that in place while we try and get it on. Getting the bolt started, should be no problem. So you might just be able to make out here, we've got the bolt coming through. That's where we need to get this nut up into here somehow and yet hold it in place, but you'll notice with the fingers it's not exactly got a lot of room. So we managed to work out a way on the other side to get this sorted, so we'll give that a try. I'll explain that now. So the first thing we do is we take a relatively narrow spanner. We've got a 17 nut here. We've just literally used some tape to stick it in place so that it's not going to easily fall out. Okay, so we're going to need to slot the nut now with the spanner into place like that. And when I feel that that's in the right place, I'm actually going to use this hole and a long narrow finger, putting that up and inside. Okay, so now with my finger inside, you can see coming through like that. I'm going to be able to push on the back of the nut. I'll have the tape on that side. Just be able to screw the nut through from this end, push it on, hold it in place, and once it's bitten, as long as the spanner stays in place, then we should be able to get that nice and tight. So here we are, doing it up now, and it's a lot easier if you have a friend doing it with you.
Finally, torque it to 90 Newton meters.
Right, rears are back down on the ground, so time to move over to the front. Okay, rear's done, we're now onto the fronts. Broadly the process is pretty similar. Got the coilover in here and some slight differences. First of all, at the bottom it's actually easier. You've just got a nut and a bolt assembly, so quite easy to sort that out. And the top is accessed obviously through the bonnet. The problem you get here is that you've got this this upper wishbone kind of getting in the way. Now if you've got spring compressors, you just clamp this down and it'll come out nice and easy. If we're in the unfortunate position that we're in and not having any of those, then we've got a really long, sort of foot-long bolt coming through here, and we'll be able to take that out to some extent, get a bit of play in this, and that should be enough to do the job. Okay, so we've got these top nuts off, and for junior mechanics like myself, it's important to remember which way to turn. I actually accidentally tightened this one so much that I sheared the bolt off. Luckily it's to be thrown away, so never mind. Anti-roll bar linkage coming off, similar to before. And this big brute of a bolt, it's talking about me, the upper wishbone is coming off.
Do you practice that action at home?
A lot.
Ta-da! Bolt for the lower bolt for the stock coilover is out. So big old bolt is gradually sliding forward. It then, difficult to film, but hits against a bolt which holds which is a bracket for the anti-roll bar. So you can just loosen that out to give this bolt run to come. Right, that's popped out nicely.
Yeah, so here's that big bolt. Had to undo this one just to be able to slide the top, so the nut of that off. This one I didn't need to touch. Okay, with all that undone, I should just be able to pull this down and wiggle things out. Yeah, there we go. Ah, so I've got this sensor on here, that's just in the way, there we go. Cool, that's the front one out.
Where do we keep that now?
Well, we'll just carefully throw it over there. New coilover put in from the bottom and just loosely tied up with these nuts to keep it in place.
Reassembly essentially just the reverse of disassembly, so big bolt going back in.
Okay, that's the main bolt in now for the shock, and the anti-roll bar linkage connected again as well. Okay, just putting the wheel back on, otherwise all done, so we'll load it back up and see if it works. Still good at the moment. Oh, pretty close on this side. I can't get the jack out.
It's too late for the jack.
Oh.
Okay, well. Right. First major test. Speed bump.
Speed bump. Here we go.
I'll tell you what we didn't do. We only literally just like snugged up the lug nuts as well. The wheels aren't really on properly. That could be an issue. Little spin round the block with the new coilovers, which feel brilliant.
Rather happy with those. Car definitely, even as a passenger, you can feel it's a lot more responsive. It feels so much racier. Mark's definitely got a big smile on his face. So, sorry.
No.